Well, thank you all so much for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
You.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Oh my gosh, this movie is so cute. Like I
Thank you.
instantly fell in love with it. I was like, this is so much fun. But I love that it's like pitching a movie inside a movie. Can you talk about how that idea came about? Because that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So I'm a big fan. I don't know if you've ever seen the pitch meeting videos on YouTube with Ryan George. My family and I love watching those videos, and I just love the tone of them specifically. And so as I was working with Terrence on the script, I really came to this realization that the movie really is about Terrence's journey, as an Asian actor, not really finding the roles he wanted, and then going out and making this movie and writing this script. So it really was inspired by Terrence and his incredible skill of pitching, because this movie would not be here without him and his incredible pitching abilities. Yeah.
It was just so perfect. I was like in between each act, we're catching up with where they are.
It's the perfect breather in between those moments. You're like, oh my gosh, and all of a sudden you're like, right, it's a pitch meeting. You know what I mean?
It was also our last day of filming, so so it was interesting. Like the scene with Nora and her friend Haley, we were running the scene, and we were like, oh my god, this movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test, and I was like, but we can now point that out in the pitch meeting.
Edit that.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's so brilliant. I love it so much. So why Manhattan? Why New York?
I mean, what's the last New York rom-com you've seen, right? And I grew up watching rom-coms from the 90s and early 2000s, and it feels like all of them were set in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to believe that Matthew McConaughey was from Staten Island, but so I mean, that's a tough one. But no, because we all live here, right? There's an energy to the city that is unlike anywhere else in the world, and it's grand and romantic. You know what I mean? Falling in love here, trying to fall in love here, there's a certain magic to it, and we wanted to make sure that we wanted to capture that. And that was one of our biggest pitches, you know, when we were meeting with our creative collaborators, with our department heads, like, hey, how do we capture this magic? How do we capture the cinematic feel of New York, but like an elevated version of it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
You never know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of New York. You could bump into someone at a coffee shop and it could just uproot your whole life.
Yeah.
Uh,
it has ruined mine multiple ways. But
yeah, I went to film school at NYU, and just literally in class, we would just go out and on the street and start shooting. And so it was really fun when we did the opening credit sequence. It really felt like I was in film school again, making movies with my friends. And
I think one of the things too is that you can tell we shot in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't double Vancouver. It's like, no, we shot in New York, and I think you can feel the energy through the screen.
Not a studio in LA.
No. Well, what happens when someone wants to make this app? Do you guys get a cut? How does that work?
so we built the app.
You did?
Yeah, so it's going to come out around the release Meet Cute, which was a super fun process, learning about how to develop an app. And I can't think about a movie without how to market it. And so immediately when I was trying to build this story, I was like, okay, we need the app. I'm single in the age of dating. I don't know. I think it was interesting to do a rom-com in the age of dating apps, and
Absolutely.
Hate this Meet Cute for somebody else too.
Yeah.
And I think one of the coolest things too is our production designer, Karen Weber, incredibly gifted and talented. She just that ad campaign, I showed it to people, they're wait, is this a real ad campaign? Because it looks and it feels like a real ad campaign because yeah, it is a real ad campaign, you know?
There's a lot of Easter eggs in the costume. So if you know famous meet cutes and rom-coms, all the couples have the same costume as those couples.
I know, that was so fun. I will say, because as a fan of rom-coms, I was like, this is so great, because each one is from certain ones. So what was it like trying to weave those all together? And were there any that you really wanted to include but weren't able to?
So Kendall and I both love Pretty Woman, and I realized there isn't really a spot for it, because
that was the most fun day on set, by the way. We just had to, keep switching outfits and switching the background at Be Electric, and it really felt like you got to recreate these iconic rom-coms. And that's very special.
And I think also like we lucked out. We were one of the first films, if not the first film, to actually use that volume. And I don't know if you know, but those backgrounds are hand animated.
By the
Wow.
production designer's husband.
Yeah.
So we're a real family affair.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that's like marrying literally cutting edge tech with old school style. And I think that really encapsulates what this movie is
Modern nostalgia.
yeah. And we're kind of throwing back to like, no, we love these rom-coms and we miss these types of movies. And we
Mhm.
want to make that, but like, you know, it's funny. I was the oldest person on set most days. You know, people would come in, they're like, is this like a high school AV club? Like, what's happening here? You know what I mean? And and then they saw the frame, they're like, oh, like they're for real, you know? So it was working with such young, talented artists, like it was a true joy to come to work every single day.
Yeah, I was 23 when we were filming, and it was an incredible experience because as a woman, like it was one of the first times where I felt like people cared about what I had to say.
Mhm.
Really had such an incredible cast and crew, and it felt like a family.
It really felt like summer camp. When we stopped filming, I was like, wait, what? Where do we go now? Where are my friends?
We'll try to find you some pictures, but on the volume during lunch break, we may or may not have been playing Mario Kart.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was and then in the you know those claw machines in the bubble tea scene?
Uh-huh.
During setups, we were all playing the claw machines. That store made money hand over fist over us. Yeah, it was a good
At some
time.
points, Mac had to be like, all right,
Like, get back on track, guys. What are we
Yeah,
doing here?
Good movie, come on.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those scenes, like when you're filming, what is it like filming a set on a set? Like, I feel like wouldn't that get a little confusing at times?
Yeah, we had like our prop camera and our real camera, so it got a little confusing as we were like backing up the different files. But yeah, with the Be Electric scenes, I love Singing in the Rain and the classic 50s musicals, and so I really wanted to do like a modern homage to Singing in the Rain.
And Andrew at Be Electric is such a champion of independent film. And so he was a joy to work with. You know, as soon as we broached the subject with him, he was like, yeah, let's make this happen. You know, and I feel that energy of indie filmmaking in New York is so important. And hopefully we capture a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just love this story so much because you do have, there's a lot of times you have like this person's in a relationship and this person's in a relationship and then they get together. But this is also tells like a unique, and it's different in that, like the scene where you all four of you go out, I was like, what are you guys doing? This is gonna be terrible.
I don't know. Yeah, that probably wasn't a good idea, but we're like, yeah, let's have them meet.
Yeah, right. It'll be fine. No one's gonna get jealous or start a fight or anything like that.
But also, I mean, that scene, you walk in there and it's like a Technicolor explosion, you know?
Yeah,
It's-
our costume designer, like interestingly, the hardest location to find was a restaurant. And so we were asking our crew, and our costume designer, Hannah, was like, oh, this bubble tea place in my neighborhood. And we were like, oh my God, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bubblegum explosion, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love that because I love that it's an app and all that, but I really love that Chloe's an influencer. Like, I feel like it really feels like this is, you know, a modern rom-com, but with the feel of, again, the rom-coms we're like nostalgic for. So can you talk about the importance of like making Chloe an influencer and really bringing it into modern day?
So I think one of the funniest stories is Amanda, who plays Chloe, was literally the last person to come into it. We were about to close up shop because we had auditioned so many people, and Chloe, I can tell you, was the hardest role that we had to cast. And we had gone through what, like 20 callbacks, and we were getting close, and the girl that we saw before her, we're like, all right, I think we found the one. And then she was running late, and she comes in. It's one of those Hollywood stories, right? Like, last person to come in. As soon as she sat down and started auditioning, we kind of knew.
Yeah.
It felt like her and we were in a 10-year relationship. You know, that
Especially when they were reading the scene where Chloe inspires him to go write the movie.
Mhm.
That's when I really was like, they have this like chemistry that.
And I think writing it too, it's so easy to make Chloe a hateable character,
Mhm.
but I think in the film you really discover like why were they in a relationship, right? And you see there is genuine love between the two, but they just have been coasting for so long. And I think capturing that kind of full arc while balancing the chemistry with Nora. I think that was a really tough thing to do. And without Kendall and Amanda, you know, Jason would be nowhere. So,
Yeah.
it's you know, we wanted to make sure that the quote unquote, they're not even villains, they're I guess antagonists.
Yeah.
The bad guy, right? Like everyone's trying to chase their dreams. They just all chase them differently, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm Gen Z and I grew up with social media and the internet, and so there's a lot of like Easter eggs to like yummy yummy hair gummy and all the stuff that I grew up with.
yeah, I will say I hated Chloe at first. I was like, what is this girl doing? She's breaking up, she's making him take pictures. She's not even putting him in any of her Instagram pictures. This poor guy, he's such a good guy. And then I was like, okay, now I kind of like her. I kind of get it. So
Yeah,
brilliant job.
Multi-layered characters, which is what I love about them. You love them sometimes, they make mistakes, and that's what makes them so relatable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you want to shake Nora at one point. You're like, what are you doing? Look at, he's right in front of you.
She's like a doormat sometimes, but she really finds her power. I like to say that this movie isn't about finding the one, which is like many traditional rom-coms are. It's about finding yourself. And I think Nora finds herself a little bit when her world gets tossed up.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is also like none of the characters really change, right? I hate the trope of like, oh, we're changing for you, right? Like it's, hey, like this person has inspired me to be better.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't compromise on your beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something that's really important and sometimes gets lost in rom-coms where it's like, oh, I'll change myself for this person. And the glow up isn't about that. The glow up is about you discovering who you are and being the truest version of yourself. And if you fall in love then that's when you know it's real.
Exactly. You have to love yourself before you can love someone else. That's for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and congratulations. Like I said, I really enjoyed this movie and I can't wait for people to see it.
Thank you, Tessa. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.